to Old World Order. We're back with David Ewing Jr. and today we'll be discussing the truth about European history. Hi, David.
Hi, nice to see you again. We're going to get down to the basics. Unfortunately, European history is a lie. There are many problems with it, and a lot of the past is very sad. We see the conflicts between Russians and Ukrainians. There were conflicts in the past between the Germans and the French. There's a lot of sad history between England and Ireland. And we'll take a look at Ireland today also. When we look at the history of Ireland itself and the English, we find a lot of secrets, and a lot of the history is sad. But the purpose of examining the history is so that we can become better people and not to let the mistakes of the past ever happen again. The history is very sad, so let's have a look at this history and see what we can make of it and see if we can help to make a better future so that things like that never happen again.
And this is going to be really interesting, and I can't wait to hear what you've got to say about European history.
Let's find out who the Europeans are and what their history actually is. We will talk about recent European history. From there we can figure out history from before then. We'll focus more on the 19th century and the 20th century. Unfortunately, the history is very sad. Throughout Europe, in the late 19th century and the 20th century, there was many wars. And unfortunately, many people, they left Europe because the conditions were so bad people couldn't even live here. And during the late 19th century, many families were separated, children were kidnapped to work in industrial companies in Germany, in Holland, in France, in Italy, in England, in the industrial mills and other places. So many of the people who were running away were second or even third generation from stolen children. And they were running away. For example, in England, there was many Irish people who were kidnapped and brought here, and they were running away because they didn't want to serve in the English army. They thought to themselves, you know, we've been kidnapped, we're not English, why should we serve for the English army when they were fighting the wars against Germany in World War I and II? And many people from Germany also, they ran away and they said, why should we fight for Germany? Because we're not even German, but we were kidnapped and brought to work as children in many of these mills and other places. And in France, there was a similar situation. People said, why should we fight for France? I'm not French. Yes, but when they arrived in Canada or America, people called them French even though they weren't French. And many other people who were kidnapped from many other places that ended up, let's say, in Holland, they were classified as from Germany, but they probably came from Hungary or even from Romania or Bulgaria or from other places in Europe. It's a very sad history, and people were running, they got onto boats. There were migrants. They went on to countries known as Indian Territory in America. So, unfortunately, it's sad, but when they went over there, yes, many sad things happened. They threw people off the land over there. They stole land. They killed many people and many other things. But let's have a look at the history of why, for example, like the French brought many immigrants from Algeria and Morocco. Yes, they brought them to fight to defend France because many of the French and other people who were living in France thought, I don't want to fight or die for France. I would rather go. And many people came from India, I think, in the British Army. Over 2 million just served in one of the wars from India and Pakistan and Bangladesh. And they served in the wars to protect England from Germany. So, and many of them settled in England after the war. And so because many people left, because they didn't want to fight for France or for Germany or for Holland, they left. They said, I don't care, I'm not going to defend this place, I don't want to fight for this place. Yeah, so you know, all these Indians came, the Turks came to fight for Germany. So many of them moved to live in Germany after the Second World War. Many Indians, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis. After the war, the English government rewarded them. What do you think?
Well, it's horrifying when you do look at the past and read what happened. It's just appalling the way that people have been treated, yet we sometimes look at it with sort of rose-tinted glasses, victories, but we forget about
well,
what
if
the
you
average
want,
person
you could.
suffered.
If you want, you don't need rose-tinted glasses. I could lend you some glasses myself. If you want, I'll go and buy a few pairs, and you can borrow them. Well, anyway, the Irish had a sad history, yes, and the thing is, they didn't want to fight for England, for example, and many other people who were kidnapped and brought to England from Eastern Europe and the Middle East, they were called Irish, even though they weren't Irish. Yes, local people just called them Irish, and also because of the war, a large percentage of the population died. And also many of the young children who grew up, who were stolen from other countries, they turned around and thought, why should I work? In these mills and in these mining places. Throughout Europe, there was a lot more mining in them days. Today, we've moved the mining to the third world. But there was a shortage of manpower in Western Europe because so many people had left, because they didn't want to stay in Europe. It was so bad, it's unbelievable, after the late 19th century and the early 20th century wars. So many of the people who fought for England decided, hey, we shall reward them. And also there were movements. Many people don't know this. There was that many people with, let's say, for example, in England, who had Irish ancestry. And there were separatist movements, yes, for not Scotland with the borders today, but Scotland and Ireland all the way up to the borders of Yorkshire and Lancashire, so that would separate from the rest of England. Like, for example, when the war started, it's unbelievable, but when the war started with Germany and England, yes, let's say in 1939, hundreds of explosions took place that year throughout England in power stations and other places. I'm going to quote them in a minute, and people can have a look at them. Yes, that were done by, they call it Irish Republican Army, but it was mainly people, yes, in England, who saw themselves as Irish, who thought, hey, this is our chance. And so there was many problems that England could probably break up at the time. So England called for backup, and what they did was they brought people from India, Pakistan and Bangladesh to start fighting in the war. And these soldiers, they based them in many places in England. And France also, when it got occupied by the Germans, the French basically had nothing left, no army and nothing. And the main resistance movements were in Algeria, Morocco and Tunisia, where they prepared and trained their armies to come back into France to fight the Germans. Yes, so unfortunately, a lot of this history, many people are not aware of this. But in case they're wondering why many of the immigrants were brought, like, for example, in Brixton, they brought many people that they call Windrush. Brixton is an area in England which had a high percentage of people who they classified as Irish or white immigrants. But those people, many of them today, third or fourth generation, think they're English. But the thing is, there's a big movement in Ireland, even right now, if people study it, called the Global Irish. And the thing is, anytime that England gets weaker, there's many, not everybody, but many Irish nationalists who are thinking that, hey, we want all the Irish people to come back. And there's 6 million people of Irish ancestry in England, and there's 80 million Irish people ancestry around the world. So let's say, like, for example, the Zionism. So they brought many people from all over the world that are classified as Jewish people to Israel, and they built a country. And they're still taking more and more people. It's a big issue. Now, if Ireland is successful with the Global Irish Project, yes, and in America, for example, many wealthy Irish people in surveys have said, we are willing to fund, yes, for the removal of English ancestry or anything to do with the English from the entire Irish Republic, so that they can get it and the movement could spread. I mean, the thing is, historically, they've got their rights. Historically, you could say people in Northern Ireland have got their rights. I'm not political, I'm just showing what's going on. And the thing is, the world is a small place. We all have to get on together. And so the thing is, there were many reasons why the British brought immigrants. Because when I said the local English people, many of them, I've said before, many of them don't want to work or didn't want to in the past. It's because many of them actually are not actually English origin. When many people didn't want to work, and many of them even left. They thought, I'm not joining the army. I don't want to defend England. I'm not joining the army. I'm not going to fight for France. Yes, because in secret I know my ancestry is not French. Or I'm not going to fight for Germany. No chance. I might be white. Yes, but I'm not going to do it. But they basically destroyed Europe, and millions of people, up to about 500 million people today, with an ancestry from Europe. White people live in the Americas, in North and South America, in Africa, South African region, and in Australia, Australasia. So many people are saying the white population is going down, which is not actually true. Yes, there's 500 million white people outside Europe. Yes, but the thing is, this is not about color. The main thing we should learn is that we should not go back to the mistakes of the past. Whatever happened has happened. Let's build a beautiful future. And so many people will turn around and say, send the Moroccans home, and you know, things like that. And many other people will say, send the Indians home from England, and the Pakistanis and the Bangladeshis. Soon in the future, I'll bring out photographs of what Latin Americans look like. Many people are not aware of it, but many of them look exactly the same like Indians. By the way, 1/4 of the people in, let's say, in India, in the northern and western regions, actually look like what we call, you know, Mayan or Mexican Indians. Many of them were thrown out as the migrants went from Europe to America when they stole land, and they killed many people. You know, just said, you know, sod off, get lost. This is ours now. We're just taking it. We don't see migrants doing things like that. I mean, they shot them, they killed them, things like that. Then the Americans used the final excuse to get rid of, let's say, 2 million or many more, yes, in the 20th century, to say, you know, oh, you're Mexican. But they weren't really Mexican. They were actually, it was their land, it's their homeland. And the thing is, they were thrown out because, you know, somebody else is coming. But let's have a look at the people who came and went there, because then we will know the true history of Europe. This is another very important thing. So you could read this.
How many Britons are entitled to an Irish passport? That means about 6.7 million people in the UK who don't already have an Irish passport who could be entitled to one.
So now we know about 6 million people are entitled to an Irish passport who are living in England. 6 million people. So now when we look at England itself, what we find is this. Here is a map of England. You will notice where the Roman Catholics are living in England, the distribution. Now in these similar places, we're going to find that the people who live there, Irish people. So mysteriously, how many people were Catholic or raised Catholic in England?
3.8 million persons identify as Catholics in England and Wales. 8.3% of the adult population, and 6.2 million were raised Catholic, 13.7%.
Yes,
So
what we can see from there is that there is about, you know, 6 million Catholics and 6 million Irish people. Yes? So now the thing is, because many of them, they were kidnapped and brought here in the early 20th century or the 19th century, yes? Many people don't know how many English people are actually not English but Irish. So because they were brought as orphan children, they were kidnapped. Yes, they give them fake names like Smith and Jones and many other names. Yes, you know, like many people who were working in the mills were given the name Miller. Yes, they were given fake names. But, you know, what they say is that only 600,000 people know and declare themselves to be Irish in England. Yes? Whereas it's realistically about 6 million people whose ancestry is Irish, but many of them don't know. And because they were brought and kidnapped, they had no property, no nothing. They were forced to work. They were forced to work in the mines in England, and they were forced to work in the mills. This is why they have no property. And many of them lived in council estates. Many of them think that they're English, but they're not English. And they were kidnapped. Yes, and they were forced to work. Their families were left to die in Ireland, in many places, and other children were shipped off to the Americas from Ireland. Yes, and what we can see is there was millions of children workers and millions of orphans who were in England and in other places, and they just sent them anywhere. Some of them they sent to Australia, even in the early 20th century. But the thing is, yes, these people today think that they're English, but they're not English. Yes, and in Ireland they remember the history because it happened to them in their country. But in England, many people think that they're English, but they're not English, and they've got names like Smith, Jones, Miller, and many other names, Taylor, and other things, or Minor. And they don't own land, they don't own homes. That's why they were in council areas. And it was not just the Irish, but they kidnapped many other children from Europe and Eastern Europe, and they brought them to England to work. And they had them working, yes, in the late 19th century and in the early 20th century. We can see this here, that they just brought them and they made them work. And many of them died. Yes, so there was no one there to look after them. Then when many of them grew up and World War I happened, yes, because many of them grew up, they didn't want to work, so many of them, they just sent them to the war and that's a way to say goodbye.
Yeah, so this all links back to the orphans. So you're saying they're orphans and they've got no ancestry. They were brought from other places and they're not really from England. Okay.
Yeah, they kidnapped them from Ireland. Yes. The Irish know this history, but now let's have a look at Ireland itself. Yes. So we know this. For example, in the north, Liverpool, they were bringing them into the ports. But now, the third and fourth generation who were brought up in England after Liverpool, they went to other places. Leeds, Yorkshire, Bradford, Keighley, Manchester. But now these people think that they're English. Yes, but they're not. But the government knows these things. Yes, so the government knows that they're not actually English. And so, unfortunately, yes, this is how they treated these people. 50, 60, 70 years ago, you can actually read this. How did they treat these people?
Was there anti-Irish racism in Britain in the post-war period? The notorious sign, no Irish, no blacks, no dogs, supposedly widespread in rented accommodation, has become a symbol of anti-Irish prejudice in Britain.
Yes, 50, 60, 70 years ago, people would not even rent them property. So that's why they started shipping them abroad to places like Argentina, Canada, United States, Brazil, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia. So now if you went to Australia or to America, many people will think that their ancestry is English, but they actually came from England, but they were Irish. Yes? So they weren't wanted. So a large percentage of the people in council estates were actually Irish. But with the Irish, they mixed people, kidnapped children who were brought from Eastern Europe and Ottoman territory. Yes, Ottoman means the Muslim territories in Europe, who were white Europeans. And they kidnapped these children and they just, they mixed together. They had children together. They grew second generation, third generation. Yes? And so that's how much they hated them. But today, you will see many of them in these council estates, you will see them in council estates, and they protest with with right-wing English groups, and they actually think that they're English, many of them. But actually, many of them are not even English. And the government knows this. The government knows this. They know from the names, they know from the history that many of the churches, that gave them just a fake name, Smith, Jones. There's many of these common names. So here we see people there who are protesting from inner city areas where their grandparents brought cheap housing that was built before the Second World War and the First World War, because they weren't from England anyway. And they're not English, but they think they are. Because there was that many Irish people in England. Yes, that many Irish people that the government was worried that what if there was a separatist movement in the north? There was more of them in the north near Liverpool, Manchester, Bradford and Leeds. That in some places they became more than half the population by the Second World War. And they didn't see them as themselves as English. They weren't just Irish. There were people from Europe who were kidnapped and brought here as children, and they hated the English. So then the government at that time, there was many people who were in the British Army from India, Pakistan and Bangladesh. So what they did was Bradford was one of the major centres where the Irish were. Bradford, yes. That Bradford, yes. Some people say with the Irish and then the rest of the people that they kidnapped and brought there, Bradford, Leeds, Liverpool, Manchester, yes. So it had that many Irish people. People could read this in their time, yes. Or if you want, you could read it.
In 1851, records showed that Bradford had the highest proportion of Irish-born people in Yorkshire at the time. In Donald M. McRae's book, Irish Migration in Modern Britain, he comments on research showing that a large number of Bradford's Irish originally came from County Mayo, County Sligo, County Dublin and County Laos.
Well, basically they came from Ireland and from other places. Not just in Bradford, but in Leeds, in Liverpool, in Manchester. So now in the north, yes, in the north, in them days, you have to remember, they didn't have the highways or anything, motorways. So the thing is, what if there was a separatist movement and they made their own country? Anybody who is listening, please don't jump to conclusions straight away. There's some pictures on the screen. You could read them in your own time about, is Scotland part of Ireland? Some Scottish nationalists will say no. Some Irish nationalists will say yes. There's a history. The Scots, originally Irish, but now Scots, etc., having driven out the Irish out of Scotland, while the Picts, originally Scots, were now Irish, and vice versa. Yeah, it's on the screen. People can study this in their own time. But the problem was, if you look at the screen, I'm going to read this very fast. Just in 1939, when the Second World War had started, the Irish Republican Army, they planted around 300 bombs inside England to cause disruption, panic, whatever their motives were. But they targeted electricity stations, railway stations, communications, infrastructure, roads, bridges, government buildings. I mean, that's a lot. And maybe there was more, or they planned to do more, or many other things. But a lot of the history, the government calmed it down so that they could calm things down, because there was a war with Germany at the time and they didn't want things to get out of control. But that's a totally separate subject. Yes, but it's very important to note what is going on. Yes, inside England at the time, there's many Irish people, or they're British people born in England, probably the second generation, or people who were brought from Ireland, and things like this. But there is something wrong. Yes, it means that the English and the Irish were not united. Yes, okay, that's a separate history, but I'm quoting this. You can have a look at the screen. It's there in case people think we don't know these things. But it's very shocking, but let's move on. So then, the government needed a solution. Yes, so, and at the time, the government was losing the British Empire. So then what they did was they brought a lot of British Pakistanis, because a lot of the Pakistanis, their great grandfather was an Englishman. So they brought many of them. So today Bradford is what percentage from Pakistan?
25% of the city's in fact, Pakistanis account for over 25% of the city's
Yes.
population.
So the thing is, what the government did is this, is that the Irish, and not just the Irish, but all these other people who were foreigners, yeah, who were white, they brought them from Poland, from Bulgaria, Romania, from Turkey, Ottoman Turkish territories, Albania, from Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia, yes, from Ukraine, from many other places, that these people were the majority. They were not English, but today they think they're English. They were not English, but today they think they're English. They believe in St. George's Day, and many of them are saying, the other foreigners like Pakistanis, West Indians, get out. So you'll see them protesting and whatever, but the government knows, they're not English anyway. Yes, so the thing is, the government had to do it to stop it from happening, or otherwise it was a real danger that England would have been two different countries, in the north and the south. This was a real danger. Yes, so they had to do something. So at that time there were major riots. The Irish didn't want to be part of England. Yes, they didn't want to be. Not just the Irish, you have to account for all these other people who came and that they kidnapped and stolen and they brought here. You could read this. More serious
Irish riots that occurred in 19th century Britain. A major source of conflict was the revival by evangelical
Anglicans. So what it is that the Irish who came were Catholic. But how did they become Catholic? That's another long story of how the English, when they went to Ireland, they had deals with the Catholic Church to manage them, and the church was kidnapping the children and selling them. Yes, the Church of God. Yes, the Catholic Church was stealing and selling children. Yes, you see, so that's what they were doing. So Ireland was not Catholic anyway. There is no evidence of this thing. Yes, but what it looks like is that the Catholic churches, yes, what they did was they were looking after all these children. Yes, they kidnapped them from Ireland. Yes, and then after they kidnapped them, they brought them to England. The church was doing all these things. And then the church sold them to the factories in England, which is very shocking. Yes, but this story, people will find it, yeah, in my book, Orphan Trains. Yeah, so the church was selling all these kids, and the churches were bringing them from Ireland. So, but today, Irish people think that, oh no, the Catholic Church was there before the English. It wasn't. It's like wherever you go in Manchester. Yes, there's a village in Manchester called Ashton, not the Ashton in the south. There's an Ashton in the north. In the 1860s, yeah, even in the Midlands, what happened after the 1860s?
In the 1860s, a number of anti-Irish riots occurred in the Midlands and the north of England, provoked by William Murphy.
Yeah, there was many riots. There was many riots on both sides. In those days, it's not like today. A riot was like murder. In the 1880s and things like that, all you could do is, this is the only history you'll find. Yes, you could read this.
First, we know much more about those serious anti-Irish riots that achieved national
riots.
notoriety.
Yeah, people can open these links. These are research papers in universities, research papers. You know, they can open them and read through them themselves. In the 1870s till 1921. That's 50 years of what was happening in those 50 years. You could read the second line by John Parry in his research.
The Tredegar anti-Irish riots of 1882
yes.
in Balfour.
So now, the thing is, when we have a look, so now these Irish are in England. And not just the Irish, but all these other foreigners. Yes? And they're there in the 1870s, 1880s, 1910, 1920s. and this is the reality. Yes. What do we know? The Irish for "Do you understand?"
The Irish for "Do you understand?" as the majority of Irish couldn't speak English at that time.
Well, I'd like to ask you, do you understand? Can you imagine they're walking around? They've been kidnapped, brought here as slaves, and they don't speak English. You see?
So obviously they're speaking a language that
They're
their
speaking
original language.
they're not speaking a language, not obviously, because the British occupied Ireland, destroyed the education system. There was famines, there was other things, and the British even took foreigners to Ireland. So the Irish didn't even come from Ireland, half of them. That's another thing people haven't checked. So now, you could read this. It's everywhere. This is from Gordon schools. Yeah, people have done research. Yes, even in Scotland. What do we know about the Irish 100 years ago? The Irish
couldn't speak English.
There you go. It's simple. They didn't speak English. Yeah, even 100 years ago. Yes. And what's even worse is that the English were ruling Ireland, but they're telling us that, oh, it was originally Catholic, blah, blah, blah. But what do we know? You could read this.
Irish didn't speak English and were poorly educated because England didn't allow education for Irish Catholics for a long period of time.
It wasn't just didn't allow. In them days, don't forget, the world was poor. Yes? More poor. So there wasn't schools. And nobody had education. It was like the church. Yes, who, if they kidnapped children, then they gave you education. Yes, but the Irish children and the foreigners, they were sent to work. Yes, you know, in these places. So they kidnapped them and just sent them to disgusting places, saying, get to work. You understand? They were slaves. You know what I mean. Yes, they were calling them names like dogs. And very... not just that, even worse names. I don't want to say the words, but I'm sure you can imagine what names they were calling them. Very, very horrible names. Many girls got raped. Yes, and things like this. The children were abused. The women were abused and things like this. And they were just throwing alcohol at them, saying, just give them beer. Keep them drunk. You know what I mean. Let them keep working and things like this. And so it's not just the Irish, but other people that they brought. Yes? So today these people think they're English. Yes? And the thing is, now when we have a look, many of them ran away. And when they grew up, when they were about 20, 25, they ran away. Yes, to go live in America on Indian territory, or to go live in Canada on Indian territory. Yes? Oh, today many of these Irish who live in England are turning around and saying to the Indians and Pakistanis, send them home. But, because they're saying they came on boats. But these Irish who think they're English, yes, yes, many of them, you know, went on boats to Indian lands. I mean, it's not the United States of America, it's the United States of India. But when they arrived, let's say in Canada or the US, what do we know about these people who came? You could read this.
Irish immigrants to Canada. The Irish didn't speak English or French. Instead, some of them spoke Irish. Some of the poor and homeless people didn't speak anything, and all they knew.
All they knew was just a few words. So now, they're coming from Ireland, or they're coming from England, yes, who are Irish or other things. They didn't speak English. They didn't speak French. Some of them spoke a few Irish words, and many of them didn't even have any language at all. They couldn't even speak. They only knew a few hundred words. Yes, that's how uneducated the world was 100 years ago, unfortunately. Yes, and when we say Irish words, the people who remember this, who were in Canada before then, yes, they don't know if it's really Irish words. It's just that these people spoke a few hundred words. That's it. Whereas a normal person has a vocabulary of several thousand words. Now, you could read it all. In fact, the Irish didn't speak English or French. Some spoke Irish. Some of the poor and homeless didn't speak anything at all. Continue.
Some of the poor and homeless people didn't speak anything, and all they knew was how to plant and work all day. But some knew a couple of Irish words. It was really hard for them to find a job since they didn't know any of the languages that were spoken in Canada.
Yes, so they couldn't speak. Yes, so simply, they couldn't speak English, French, or German, or any of these other languages because they were all new, and they knew just a few hundred words, but nobody knows if those words are Irish at all. It's like people who spoke English and French were guessing, maybe they speak that language called Irish. Yes, and Irish or Rush. Irish, Russia, Rush. Yes, so they only knew very few limited vocabulary, almost as if they just came out of the deserts or somewhere. Yes, and so when we look at in Canada, yes, how many of these people, they call them Irish because they don't know what they were. Yes, and don't forget, many of the people who were in England or in Ireland, the British brought them from Europe. But by 1867...
By 1867, they were the second largest ethnic group after the French and comprised 24% of Canada's population.
Basically one quarter of the people in Canada are alleged to be Irish. Yeah, but nobody knows where they really came from. So now when we have a look at a map of Ireland and England, what we can see is that the colours that are in black or dark brown is where there's many people who are living there. Yes? So what we can see on the map, if anybody knows where London is, yes? On London and England, there's a lot of people living in those areas. Now, how many people does it look like live in Ireland compared to England?
Not as many.
Hardly anybody. They destroyed the entire country. They left nobody there. Just a few people. But they made their own country beautiful. For that time, the people who did it. They thought England's our country. Now, the amount of land that's in Ireland, including Belfast, Northern Ireland, and if you remove, Wales, it's a similar size of England. But we're talking about England has got about 60 million people, but Ireland's got about 6, 7, or 8 million people. I mean, what the hell is going on here? It shows that they took them all. They stole everybody. That shows how many people in England are not. It's more than 6 million who came from Ireland. So the population of England, what was the population in 2021 of England?
At the 2021 census, the population was 56 million.
Yeah, 56 million in England. So how many people live in Ireland?
With a population of about 5.4 million.
So England has got 10 times the more people. Why is Ireland's land empty? This is a serious question. It's because the Irish, yes, want their people back, many of them. Many of them want their brothers, their sons, their daughters. Their grandparents who were raped and murdered, yes, are in the fields, buried there in Ireland. And their souls should be calling out for their great-grandchildren, come back home or come to see us. You see? And so many of these people who think they're English, they're not English at all. And they're complaining about many things, They're complaining about black people, about Jewish people, or they complain about another group of people also that they call Muslims. This is very important when it comes to Irish history. Yes? It's because they're complaining. So what we can see is that all these people are now saying that they are English. I mean, that's mysterious.
Yeah.
That's mysterious. It doesn't make sense. Yes.
But then they don't know that. They're not taught that. There's in official
So why
history
don't you
at
go
school,
and tell them? I mean, you've got the channel Old World Order. Aren't you supposed to be waking people up and telling them these things? I mean, where have you been?
Well, that's why I've got you here. So hopefully that this channel will...
that is not fair. I mean, why is it only my job to do the righteous thing? I mean, when are you going to stand up and make a stand?
Well, hopefully there are quite a few channels now who are...
Why are you depending on other channels? What are you doing about it?
Well, hopefully through my channel we can...
Through your channel? You mean you're doing nothing? Forget it. I don't want to fight about it. Anyway, let's move on to the next page. Yes. So now we can see there is something in Europe. They call it Islamophobia, but basically it's racism. You know, they see all these women and they turn around and say, "What's that thing on? Why is she wearing a towel around her head?" Yeah, throw it off, and they attack them. Yeah, and they turn around and say, they're not welcome here. You know, and they're saying, "Why are these people wearing these scarves and towels?" They insult and they say towels. They attack them and they pull it off their heads and things like that. Yeah, so that's what they do. So now we will go deep into European history. And if anybody wants to challenge it, prove it. Yes? So now what we have here is the way they really destroyed Ireland so badly. Here is Ireland, but here is how poor they made it. You know, that the people were unhealthy and, you know, very poor. So they basically destroyed Ireland. But let's have a look at the entire history of Europe. This is now all the European people's grandparents. I want to settle this for once and for all. And if you don't have, you know, if you have no proof, then forever hold your peace. I'm going to go through the entire European continent just 100 years ago. Now you could read this.
Immigrants, Ellis Island and her children at Ellis Island, 1900.
Okay. Now what we can see here is immigrants coming from Europe. Yes? And they're coming from Europe, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales. Yes? Germany, France, Holland. And what we can clearly see is what are they wearing?
They're wearing headscarves.
So now what we see is that after 1900, slowly the women started changing fashion. Here is people getting off the boats. They're foreigners. They're in the United States of America. Sorry, the United States of India. It was Indian territory, or Red Indians they call them. So now we've got these people. They're going on boats. They're running away because they had enough of Europe. They didn't want to be there. We've got people, and so many people started wearing a hat. Yes, you know, they were the middle class or the upper class, and who were educated not to wear the hijab, or they're getting off the boats. They've just arrived. Yes, so we're going to go through, yes, the entire history of the United States, because people are complaining. You know, people are complaining, saying, "What's going on?" Yes, we've got people. Yes. We've got people who are running away from poor countries and things like that, and they're coming to England, and you know, people are talking about it, saying, "Hey, send them home." Okay, yes. So if we're going to be fair, yes, and send people home who are coming on the boats, because some people are saying send back all the foreigners. Okay, the illegal ones, you could send them back. Yes. There's a case for it. So now we see in this picture that there's migrants coming on boats to England, to Ireland, to France, to Italy, to Spain. They're getting off the boats. So now what we can see is, yes, they're going there illegally. So in the same way, we've got hundreds of pictures. We've got hundreds, yes, of illegal immigrants coming from England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and they're getting off the boats. Yes, this is just in New York, Ellis Island. Yes, so so they're getting off the boats. They're illegal migrants. Yes, and what are they all wearing? These English women, and Irish women, and German women. What are they wearing?
They're wearing the hijab. The Muslim.
Yes. So, and they're not wearing any crosses or any Christian symbols. Nothing. People can examine hundreds of photographs. There is no evidence that Christianity was there, that evangelism spread only after the late 19th century. Here we see a few people, illegal immigrants, migrants who are coming by boat. I mean, it was Red Indian land. It was Indian territory. They've just arrived. Yes. And, you know, they're going there. Yes, they've gone there to take land, to take homes, people's homes. And so what are they all wearing?
The hijab.
Yeah, so that's what we see. And today, when we look at New York today and things like this, we'll see that, you know, people are very happy there. And the thing is, but their grandfathers, yeah, were illegal migrants. They came on boats. They were illegal immigrants. They went to somebody else's land. It was Indian land. And they gave it a new name, New York. And here is their great-grandchildren. So many people are saying sent home. Foreigners from England, okay, the illegal ones. But then many people are saying sent all the foreigners out of Europe. So saying that. So we've got to soon realize and think, what is going on here? There's people who are there. Oh, they're so happy there. They went there as illegal migrants. Here is their grandparents, just 100 years ago. Here's more of them. They're getting off the boats, coming from London, coming from Birmingham, coming from Amsterdam, coming from Frankfurt, coming from Paris, coming from Barcelona. What are they all wearing?
They're all wearing the hijab.
Yeah, this is very strange. This is very strange. Yes, but they don't show us any of these things. So now, what did the English do to Ireland itself? They destroyed Ireland. Yes, in the same way, that's when the British were in India, Pakistan and Bangladesh. Yes, there's a lot of these foreigners in England from India, Pakistan and Bangladesh. There was famine in India. Yes, and so they caused a famine because there's more people in England that were just stealing the food. Because they wanted to make England modern and beautiful, so they needed the food, they needed the cash. Yes, and you could read this.
Throughout the entire period of the famine, Ireland was exporting enormous quantities of food to England. In Ireland, before and after the famine.
Yeah, so many people, starved and died. Other people got raped. So
I don't have anything. I'm quite stuck for words, actually.
What do you mean you're stuck?
Really?
Their grandparents died of starvation. Do you know what it's like to starve and die? I think you should try starving yourself until you die. And then after you die, if I can find you, I'll come and ask you, how did it feel? Yeah? So now we've got these people... Excuse me?
The media are pushing this. So if you're
Why are you blaming the media? Did you know any of this history before I'm telling you? Did you know any of this?
No, not
That's not the media. That's you. You didn't study it yourself. There you go.
No, but the thing is,
Oh, wait.
The
The media doesn't tell you to take drugs. The media doesn't tell you to go out there and get pissed. Yes? It's the people who do it.
No, but the average person gets their news and information from the media. And if the media are pushing a narrative...
No, that's because you chose that news channel. The average person chooses that. Nobody's telling you to watch these bad media channels. But anyway, now when we check through Irish history, the sad thing is, yes, even in Ireland today, we hear news like this. So now their own grandmothers used to wear hijab, but what are these many Irish people doing today?
Irish National Police have launched a probe into a racist and Islamophobic attack by a group of teenagers who targeted a Muslim teenage girl.
Yeah, they ripped off her headscarf. Yeah, and then God knows what they did. So the thing is, we see these things happening, all the time throughout Europe. Yes, but when we look at people's grandmothers and their grandmothers' parents, you could read this. A Muslim doctor?
A Muslim doctor living in Dublin has spoken of the insults and harassment she suffers for wearing a hijab.
Ah, well, if people in England and Ireland want to do that, they don't need to, throw insults at, at a Muslim who's wearing a hijab. All they have to do is just go visit a graveyard where their grandparents or ancestors are and say, hey, grandma, why did you wear a hijab? Or grandma, why did your parents wear a hijab? What do you suggest? If many of these people hate the headscarf so much, and they want to, say evil things to people wearing headscarves?
The thing is that a lot of this information is hidden, so the
It's not
average
hidden.
person...
How can I find it? I'm a joker, and I found it. In fact, you could read this.
This video shows the moment a Muslim girl walking with her cousin in Ireland was assaulted, egged, and reportedly had her headscarf pulled off.
It's not just in Ireland they pull their headscarves off and throw eggs. They do it in England, France, Germany, things like this, to do with the hijab.
That's because it's been whipped up. It's a hysteria, isn't it, by the media?
Please, I'm not just because the media says it, I'm not going to go out there. Look at this, you're trying to divert the blame, saying it's not our fault, we haven't done anything. We don't know anything, we're just dummies. We got time to watch the media, we got time to read racist blogs and posts on Facebook, but no, we won't read the real stuff. The real stuff. In fact, you could read this. I'm sorry, I'm not going to tolerate, an excuse.
More than half of Muslims in Ireland experience some form of hostility from being spat at in public spaces to women having their hijab pulled off.
I think that's so horrible. But this happens in England, in France, in Germany. Here they are. There's their grandmothers. Yes. So this is what they're doing. Oh, please don't blame it on the media. Nobody's telling you. Nobody's teaching you to go and spit at somebody. I watch the media. I don't turn around and think I'm going to spit at you. Or maybe I should think about it next time. Since you told me it's in the media, so now I should do it myself. Is this what you're trying to say? It's the media's fault?
No, but I'm just trying to say that...
You're just trying to defend?
I'm not defending.
I'm sorry, but I'm not. I'm not going to let you continue with this. I can't believe this.
It's the people at the top who are...
So you're going to... So you know what? Yeah, well, here we have... Yes, I'm going to go through many European families. So here are people coming from England and Ireland going to go live in the United States. They've just got off the boat. What you will see is that the women are wearing hijab. So what you will notice is that these people who are coming from all over Europe had headscarves. Hijab. Here is a family. You could read this.
German immigrant family after arriving in America, 1800s.
Yeah, exact date is not known. So now this is the reality of what Germany was. Now the thing is, nobody wants to admit it. Yes, but before 1900, everywhere in Europe, everybody basically had a hijab. Everywhere. Now if somebody can prove it to me that I'm wrong, prove it. Prove it. Prove it. There is no proof. By the way, the people were forced to take off their hijab slowly. Many of them took it off voluntarily, but they were forced to take it off. Now what they show us, what they will show us when we look at the BBC, CNN, NBC, CBS, France 24, DW News, they're going to show us Irish Americans, and this is what they will show you. Have a look at this picture. They're going to show you pictures like this after they slowly stopped wearing headscarves. Yes? But the reality is they were all wearing hijab, and then slowly in schools, yes, they were forced to take it off in classrooms and other places and in the workplace. Yeah, wherever they came from, Eastern Europe or wherever in the United States or wherever in Europe. We're going to go through every country. Now these are Ukrainians, Ukrainian people. What are they wearing?
The hijab.
Ah, yes. So they're Europeans. So now you could read this. These are people who live in the US and Canada now. Where did they come from?
Ukrainian immigrants,
Okay.
1891 to 1930.
Yeah. So we could see just 100 years ago, 1890s. Yes? And what are they all wearing in the picture?
The hijab.
And another thing is, what you will notice is that these people are coming from Ukraine and Russia. And then you will notice something. I'm going to make it bigger. It's because Europe was not fully white. But now look at this photograph here. What color do the people's skin color look like? This is very important.
They're tanned. They look tanned.
Yeah, they look like Indians, Pakistanis and whites. Everyone was mixed in Europe. But then when people went further north, yes, the skin color goes lighter. When you go south, it goes darker. It's called a suntan, or you remove it. So the longer you stay. Now, some scientists say, no, that's not true. It's genetics. Either way, people are fighting about it. Yes? But anyway, here we see migrants coming from Europe. Now it's so strange when we look at these Europeans. Yes, look at their faces. Their faces, their ancestors look a lot more different. You see? And they're wearing hijab, and then when we look at the faces of what the European people look like, these people have just got off the boat. Ellis Island was like a checkpoint. Yes, they've just got off the boat, and you will see all types of faces. But the skin color and the hair got lighter. It was more darker, yes, before they went. It's actually shocking, this history. Yes, women and children when they first entered the building. Yes, so we could, at the checkpoint, there's many people to preserve the history, and people can check these things from all over Europe. Everyone went to US, Canada, South Africa. Here is people who've just got off the boat from England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, the great English people. Oh, they're migrants, illegal immigrants. It's not their country. They went there by boats. But what are they all wearing?
The hijab.
And you know, they're always saying about the migrants. You know, saying in England. No, I'm talking about the right wingers. Yes, they're always saying, yes, they've got websites. Yes, and so many of these people in the poor areas in England, yes, they're shouting racist things, and they're saying about the migrants and the immigrants. You could read this. It's highlighted in black.
Send them home.
Yeah, saying that they're foreigners, they're migrants, they came on boats. Yes, but we can see them from England, from Scotland, from Ireland, from Holland. Yes, from Germany, Norway, Sweden, Finland. They're going on boats to Australia, to Brazil, to Argentina, to India, to Pakistan. Yes, to New Zealand. Yes, they're going by boats. You could see it, thousands of them. So if we're going to send one party home, we'll have to send the other side home. And now when we make these pictures bigger, these thousands of migrants going from London by boat, or going from Liverpool or Manchester, what are they all wearing?
The hijab.
Yes. So this is the real history of England and Europe. But nobody's talking about it. They're showing us fake history and fake fashion that we can see on, the real Americans and the real Europeans, yes, before the 20th century, what are they all wearing?
The hijab.
Yeah, yes, that's what it is. The hijab actually came from Europe, but that's another long story. Here we see people who've just got off the boat. Illegal immigrants just arrived. What are the women wearing?
Hijabs.
Yeah, and you could read this.
First, they excluded the Irish.
Yes, so they're Irish people. They're starving, they're dying, they're suffering. Yes, there was too many people. There was too many trafficking, and there was lots of wars going on in the 19th century, and then the First and the Second World Wars. And we can see them all. They're running away to Indian territory. It was called USA. It's India. And they're arriving, but what are they all wearing?
The hijab.
Yes, they're coming from Europe, all over Europe. Yes, you'll find hundreds, thousands of pictures. Yes, from all over the world. Here they are. Yes, people who've just arrived, who've got off the boats. What are they wearing?
The hijab.
Yeah, and then we could see people having dinner in America. They don't show us these pictures, but these are the real people of America 100 years ago. What are the women wearing?
The hijab.
Are they wearing crosses? We don't see anything. People can find thousands of pictures online themselves. They're not wearing crosses or any Christian symbols. Nothing. I couldn't find anything. It's because Europe wasn't Christian before. That's another thing. If people read my books, they will be shocked. Now here is pictures. All of these European families. All of them. What are they all wearing? They're all Europeans.
They're all wearing the hijab.
Yeah, so now you could read this, what this says, in case people are going to say, I'm just making this up. What does this picture say?
Newly arrived European immigrants.
Ah, yes, migrants, illegal immigrants. They've just got off the boat. Yes, they're Europeans who've come. France, Germany, England, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Scotland, Ireland, England. What are they all wearing?
The hijab.
Yes. So this is the real history of Europe and America. Now, another thing is, yes, this is very important. Europe wasn't white. It was mixed before, but then they made it white after the late 19th century. So this here is pictures of white people at the time, white Europeans. Now, when we look at the photographs carefully, does everybody look white in the picture, or can you see it's a mixed society? So
Yeah,
what made them separate everything? We'll explain this after. So now let's have a look at these, Germanic Anglo-Saxon people throughout Europe and America 100 years ago. What are they wearing?
The hijab.
Yes, but now when we look at history books, what they're going to show us is things like this after 1900. Because these are the pictures, this is the history they want you to see. They're showing you just a minor few people, but the thing is, basically almost everybody wore a hijab. And then when we look at the Irish faces, yes, or English faces, they were not all fully white. When we look at the children there, we could see the mother looks like she's from India or Pakistan or from Turkey, and the children look half and half. And then slowly, yes, the features, the food changed and many things, and the climate and all these other things, everything had an impact. Yes, so the way that these eugenics committees and everything, they defined race and everything, they're lying a lot more about skin color and how it changes. Yes, so when we look at all these things, it's very shocking. Now, another thing is, some people lie they're Irish or German or something. Yes, you could read the title.
How common was it for German immigrants to hide
Their
it is
ancestry.
for ethnic German,
Yes.
their ancestry?
Yes.
It is for ethnic German.
Yes, it's not just the Germans, but if they were German or if they were Dutch or if they were Irish, many people were lying about their ancestry. Yes, when they arrived over there, when there was a war with Germany, I'm not German. Oh, if you're from Ireland, oh, I'm not Irish, I'm German. You see, because the Irish were looked down on. You see, yes. So people invented their own ancestry and heritage, and for the safety of their children and grandchildren, they even told lies of who they were. Many people said, "Ah, we're Jewish." Yeah. Many people said, we're, what do you call it, Italiano. Yes? So the Germans were hiding it. Many English people, if they were from England and they thought they were English, but they couldn't speak English and things like that. So America, they're coming from everywhere. They're getting off boats. That's why before the 1950s, around half the people could not speak English properly. Yes? And so you could see this in 1917.
Many German Americans began to conceal their ethnic identity, stop speaking German.
Yes. So, and did they even speak proper German at the time? Or did they speak something else? And not only this, Germans and Irish and many other things, people invented their names and all these other things. Some Irish and some Germans took English names, Smith, Jones, people were doing these. So they invented fake names, they gave themselves these fake names to hide their, you could read it. Others changed. This is from the Library of Congress. People can read these things themselves.
Others changed the names of their businesses and sometimes even their own names in an attempt to conceal German ties and to disappear into mainstream America.
Yeah, people just wanted to mix in. So that is another reason why people, change their names and things like this. And so, because people were afraid. Yes, same like many Muslims. Compared to 30 years ago, up to a quarter of the Muslim women in Europe and America now don't wear their headscarves because they're trying to blend in and wear the new fashion jeans, whatever. Yes, so that's what's happened. Like here is a study, a research study from university, and the study focuses especially on Irish American efforts to do what?
It focuses on Irish American efforts to insulate themselves from accusations of unpatriotic and un-American attitudes and behaviours.
Yes, because what the government did, they were promoting, there wasn't no television, they were promoting, hey, don't wear a headscarf, don't do this, don't do that. Yes, send your women to work. Oh, the boys round here, they drink, join the army, do this, that. There was many things, and if people didn't go, did that, they became targets. Or basically, it wasn't Americanism, it was basically you become English. Both
German Americans and Irish Americans were targets of the 100% Americanism campaign.
Yeah, well, basically, what they did was they got rid of their original languages, they got rid of everything. They got rid of the headscarves, everything, they changed them to something else. There is no evidence that they were Christians, they were evangelicals, or any of these type of American type of Christians, which is different from Europe. The entire history is a fraud. Yes, the reality of these people who came from Europe, yeah, the reality is, yes, is this. These were the English people, these were the Irish, these were the Germans. Now, America was one of the first places to change everybody. Nazi Germany followed, forcing people to remove all the headscarves and all the old-fashioned in England, in France, in Holland, then Eastern Europe did it. They basically got rid of the hijab. By force. It's another long story. So now when we talk about Europe, many people are not aware of who was in Europe. There was many people who were known as Black Dutch. And people said they were mixed ancestry. Yes, and the thing is, you could read this.
Over time, the term Black Dutch migrated with certain families of mixed ancestry from North Carolina, Kentucky and Tennessee to Missouri and Arkansas, as well as to Mississippi, Alabama, Texas and Oklahoma, where its original meaning became lost. Many people born in the 20th century have claimed Black Dutch heritage, sometimes in addition to native heritage, without having any idea who their Black Dutch ancestors were supposed to be. Unlike families in Pennsylvania or Virginia, most of the mixed-race Black Dutch families of the Deep South have English, Scots or Irish surnames and have no German ancestry in their families.
Okay, the truth is because when so many people ran away, in America they were at war with the Germans. So now the thing is, you know, many people just chose English or Irish names. But the thing is, many people came from Europe who were actually black, and they call themselves Dutch or something because they went through the Dutch ports. They came from the Rhineland, West Germany, and eastern France near Strasbourg. Yes. So the thing is, Europe before was multicultural. And very soon, if we can't do it in this video, I'll do it in another video to show how and when racism started in the late 19th century. It had something to do with when people took off the hijab in Europe and America. That was the main trigger of racism throughout Europe and America. Many people don't know this, but this is very important. Yes, I'll go through it some other time. Yes, and of course in this video there's many factors I can't mention, and some people will say I don't understand what David's showing. But the thing is, if they don't understand that there's many links I'm showing in pictures, they should open the links, read it, talk to people, find out, and they'll find out many different things. Yes, and anyway, so read this.
Late 19th century, and with the growth of the discovered that mothers from lower socioeconomic statuses used less vocabulary.
Okay, but basically, people used less vocabulary. Yes, and the written language is not the same as an oral language. For example, yes, why in a trial, why do people have barristers in England or lawyers in America? Because when somebody who has less vocabulary, the policeman could say, the murder happened on this date, did you do it? And the person could reply, didn't do it, wasn't there. So now when the police officer writes it down, the person said, didn't do it. Didn't do it. I mean, he says the words together, D-I-N-T, didn't do it, didn't do it. Yeah, so the thing is, An oral language is not the same as a written language. So the police officer, when they take the statement, they could write, "I didn't do it," he said. But he didn't really say those words. He just said, "Didn't do it." So you see, people used less vocabulary. If they used less vocabulary, for example, the Bible has many, many words. It would have been difficult for people to even know what it said in the Bible, for example, because there's that many words. This is very important to remember. But anyway, yes, when we look at the people arriving in the United States, you could read where these people are coming from. Where are they coming from?
From Austria, Hungary, Germany.
Yeah, so these people are Austrians and Hungarians and Germans and people from that region, Austria, Hungary. And what are they wearing?
The hijab.
Yeah, so we can see a common pattern throughout Europe. This was the fashion. This is what the original people of Europe were like. Now, these are people, they've just come to America from where?
From Rotterdam.
Rotterdam is in Holland, in the Netherlands. Yes, many people were running. Now, so we can see what the people in that region were like. You know, around Rotterdam is Belgium. People came from Belgium. Luxembourg, from Denmark, from Germany, from France. So when we have a look at these pictures properly, yes, they went as migrants. They went on boats. Yes, and so what are they all wearing?
They're wearing a hijab.
Yes, so we're beginning to see a clear pattern. So you can see this now. I'm showing people from all over Europe. So what was the fashion of Europe?
Wearing the headscarf, the hijab.
Yeah, so it's clear what the actual fashion sense was in Europe. It wasn't just fashion, it was linked to their original culture and their original religion. We don't see any symbols of Christianity, crosses or anything what they're showing us in the movies. They're lying about the history. So these people are running from Europe and they're second or third generation after they were orphans already. But today, yes, and so in Holland, we could see all these people from Holland. They came with the hijab. But what do we know about Holland?
Hijab are considered foreign.
Ah, so now when the Dutch went to America, yes, or when the Dutch were actually Dutch themselves, yes, they wore hijab, yes. And the thing is, they went as migrants to another place. They couldn't speak Indian languages at all, yes, and things like that. So it just shows the hypocrisy of history. When we see this, it's not just in Holland, but people are going from all over Western Europe. And we could see that people's grandmothers, all of them were wearing a hijab. But now what do we see here? Like here is in England. It says that a woman, she revealed that fear of?
She revealed that fear of being targeted for wearing a hijab.
Yes.
Scared of being attacked.
Yes. So it's like, I wonder if the people of Europe and America, would they attack their own grandparents? Would they? So it's actually, I'm saying this so that people could realize how stupid it is, what's actually going on. Yes? And it's senseless and it's wrong. Yes, because it was their tradition and their culture for centuries. It was removed by force, by political forces when people arrived in America. When the new governments took over Europe, the people were kidnapped, they were forced into the cities, they were forced into the education systems and everything. So we can see these same people, they went to Australia and other places. But let's have a look what's going on in Australia and other places. What's going on. Yes, and in England. You could read the first line. There have been
at least 30 attacks against Muslims, mainly women wearing the hijab.
Yeah, so basically they're attacking people with hijab. But then when we have a look at the true original history, this was people's grandparents. Everybody's in Europe. Everybody's. Yes, and we can see them. Here they are. They're getting off the boats. They would be classified as illegal immigrants. Yes. So the thing is, if people people were going from England, from Ireland, from Holland, from Germany, everywhere, they all had hijab. And so the thing is, for example, let's say many English people want the foreigners to leave. Now, let's say if they all left, then the thing is, many people who have an Irish ancestry see themselves as English today. But if the global Irish movement moves forward, people can study what is the global Irish movement. If it moves forward, many people don't know. So let's say if all the foreigners left Europe, let's say from England, will the Irish think that they're still English? Many Irish people consider themselves as still Irish on St. Patrick's Day and things like this, but many of them, yes, consider themselves as English. But if the global Irish movement moves forward, because Ireland isn't just going to sit there, yes, that it's got 5 million people, and there's a big movement of people saying that they're going to spend millions and millions of dollars for the global Irish movement, or even to fight, yes, for all of Ireland and to fight for the global Irish movement. Let's say all the foreigners left England. Yes, where does that leave Wales and the Welsh nationalists and the borders that they're claiming? They don't claim the current borders. We'll go through that later, and many other things. So there's many other things that people have to consider, that the British government or the English government considered before bringing the foreigners. Yes, they considered what is loyalty to the land. It had nothing to do with one person taking over another. They thought what is best for the English people, because they care about England, same like the Irish care about what's the best for their people. Okay, now, what are the people? These are people who are coming from Europe to the Americas. What are they wearing?
They're all wearing the hijab.
Yeah, so that's we can see. And here is people coming from East Germany, from Poland, from places like that, Ukraine and Russia. What are they all wearing?
They're all wearing the hijab.
Yeah, it looks same like Islamic dress, what the Muslims wear today. And these are the ancestors of Europe. It doesn't matter where you go. And you could see there's a lot of poverty there because Europe was destroyed, unfortunately. Yes, it was destroyed because of the infighting, because racism started. That some people thought, this is our land, this is our race, this is our something, and the nationalism went beyond the limits. It was too much. That's why after World War II they thought we'll create the European Union to end these problems. Now here is a ship. Where is it coming from?
A ship of the North German
Yeah,
Lloyd.
so it's basically it's coming from the German ports. All the German ports are in the north. What are all the people wearing?
They're wearing hijab.
Yes, so we can see these things. It's all over Europe, and so the thing is, we're talking millions and millions of people leaving, saying we don't want to fight for England, we don't want to fight for Germany, we don't want to fight for Europe. Europe was like totally destroyed. It was a mess. It was such a mess, and the people didn't even want to rebuild it. And many of them didn't come back after the war. They thought, we don't want to go back there. We don't want to rebuild it. They didn't want to. So they left. Here they are. They're going on the boats. So that's why Europe brought many of the people who fought for Europe and defended Europe. For example, from India, and many of the children from Algeria, people who were part of the families of the, French, British, Dutch soldiers, half English, half Indian, and things like that. So and because they fought for England, so England gave them the rights. Also, there was a shortage of the workforce, and many of the people that we call English today, I'm saying, or we call French, or we call German, many people say, why don't the young generation want to work? If you go back to, the 1950s and 1940s, many of the children know that their parents were kidnapped and brought, and they were forced to work as slaves. So the people, the attitude carried on into other generations, and they thought, I don't want to work for this country or anything. It's not my country. But then, now it's the third and fourth generation. So part of the government's, European government's policies was to bring migrants and foreigners. Yeah, there's, let's say the foreigners left in England. England's got 56 million people. Maybe the foreigners are 20 million people. Maybe less, but let's say it's 20 million. And they left. We're talking with the Eastern Europeans, Polish and all these other things. If many people left, because people will see the instability. So many of the Eastern Europeans will also leave: Romanians, Bulgarians, Hungarians, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Germans, and French, even Western Europeans. Many more people will leave. Then that will leave England with a high percentage of Irish, Scottish, and Welsh people and different nationalist movements. And then the old hatred will come back. And if people think, oh no, that will never happen. For example, in Serbia and Croatia and Bosnia, people were so intermarried, there was peace for about, 50 years, estimate, between World War II and the 1990s. People were married between most of the families. But even then, when the war started, people went and killed their sisters or their sisters' husbands or murdered their sisters' children. They burnt them inside the houses. The Balkans wars in the 1990s were one of the worst. That I couldn't believe it, that people kept the grudges from 100 years ago. Remember what his great-grandfather did? Yeah, everyone thought that was gone. Yes, because there were many Serbians in Croatia, and the Croatians thought, oh, they see themselves as Croats now. And there was many Croats in, Bosnia and Serbia, and everyone thought, oh, they see themselves as Serbians now. And there was many Bosnians in Croatia, and people thought, oh, they see themselves as Croats. Or many Bosnians in Serbia, and they thought, oh no, they will see themselves as Serbs. Yes, which they did during the peacetime. Yes, like right now we'd see Irish people flying the English flag, England, England, England. Yes, and things like that, because they believe that. But the moment something goes wrong, it will become a fire. This is why it's so important to learn from the past and never let it happen again.
So I'm going to say, so the Balkan War was fueled by sort of nationalist ideologies then? Is that what caused it? And you're saying that same thing could happen
racism.
here?
Just racism. Racism. Yeah, when the racism started, it's like the thing is, for no reason, so white people called the other white person black. And the thing is, it was so bad, it's unbelievable. Yes, what happened in the Balkans in the 90s. I never thought I'd live to see a war like that. Another war like that was in Chechnya. And unfortunately, we've had similar wars like that in the Middle East through Western invasions into Syria and Iraq and things like that. And then what's going on in Gaza now. And the thing is, I know some people have accused me of saying David is a Zionist, David's supporting Israel. It's not about supporting. I mean, when I turned around and said, hey, there's enough land in the Middle East, everybody could live there. In fact, I think that they should form a common union. Israel, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates and Turkey, and they should form a union like the European Union. I know many people in the Middle East won't like that, same like many people in Europe. They're thinking we want to leave the European Union. If they do that, then there's divisions even within Belgium. Yes, there's divisions even within France. There's divisions even within Spain, where people turn around and think, I am from this race, you're from that. But I'm in England and I will think, oh no, you're all Spanish. But somebody over there will say, oh, they've got dark hair Spanish, so they're not the same as us. Or we've got a bit more blondish hair, or they've got a bit more brownish hair at that side. Western Spain, we've got a bit more blonder and things like in the northern Spain. In the southern side, they've got a bit more browner eyes and darker hair. I mean, that's part of the Catalonia movements and all these other things. And it could spread to an Andalusian movement. So there's many other things. Same like in Italy, they have similar problems. The Venetian or Venice movement, and then there's the Milan Lombardy League, and then there's the people in the south. They had big problems in the south in the 70s. So we've got to find a way. This is not about, one race overtaking another. I mean, if you're Chinese, you're Chinese. If you're black, you're black. If you're Jewish, you're Jewish. If you're an Arab, you're Arab. If you're an Indian, you're Indian. If you're Germanic, you're Germanic. If you're a Slav, you're Slavic. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your origin is. If you're Latino, you're Latino. The thing is, we could live together. It's a beautiful world. Now, if people want to go separate ways and say, oh, in this land, we only want our people. And if they said, let's say in France, if they said, let's throw all the immigration and the migrants out, then the French should bring back all their foreigners living in Indian territories in North and South America. Yes, let's say if they did that in England. Yeah, but then if they did that, they're going to have new problems themselves. For example, Britain has invested, England has especially, has invested mega billions of dollars in India, Pakistan and Bangladesh. So if they throw these people out, they're going to lose all these mega billions, which, like for example, all they have to do is nationalize it. Yes? And, if you create racism, that's what it does. In Iran, they nationalized investment money from England, which actually hurt England. The thing is, the Iranians, many English people said the Iranians didn't pay for the Anglo-Iranian oil company. We paid for it all. We worked for it all and things like that. And the thing is, but the Iranians said, hey, this is our land. You did this, you did that. You've been unfavorable to us. And we've got nothing to lose. There's no Iranians in England. So we don't care. You can't do anything to us. So all the money that you've put in our country, we're taking it. Sorry. I mean, so there's all these things. There's hundreds of billions. It actually runs into trillions. The amounts that have been invested by countries like England, Holland, Germany, France, in all these countries where they've brought the foreigners from. So there's that much to lose. Me personally, I like the stability. And what people don't know is if they look at the past, if we make any of these mistakes of the past, we're going to burn our lands, we're going to destroy things, and it's going to take 100 years or 200 years just to rebuild everything. People don't understand these things, but many politicians
then what about
do.
What about the role of Western powers and the part they played in shaping the conflict in the Balkans?
It was wrong. It was totally out of order. It's unforgivable. The Balkans wars were criminal, and I don't like what happened. I say that we helped the rest of the world. Yes, it's a big duty and a responsibility to look after people. I mean, I've looked after workforces. It's such a big responsibility knowing that people have got to pay for their food, they've got to buy their clothes, they've got to pay their mortgages, they've got to pay their rent, they've got to have holidays, they've got to smile. Of course, if I'm doing it at somebody else's expense, it's wrong. Yeah, but the truth is the world economic system is wrong. So now to repair it, it's not going to happen overnight. And so the thing is, that's why I've said I do care about poor people. Everyone knows I'm charitable. I've shown examples of it, and I tell people to be charitable. And the thing is, right now, more than ever before, because we've had, in most parts of the world, we've had, no major conflicts like we see in Iraq or in Gaza, or like the Second World War or other things. We've had a bit of stability. The world economy has grown at such huge, fast rates, and hundreds of millions of people have come out of poverty. Now, if we can continue this growth rate for the next 50 years or 100 years without a war, then we'll be successful. Now, what I don't want to risk is, let's say we threw out all the Arabs from France. They went back to Morocco, Algeria, Iraq, or wherever their parents or grandparents came from. Then if there is a conflict with China and China wins, it means Europe will become the third world. So will America. Yes. I love China. I love it so much. Wuhan, China. I love China so much.
Sorry, what was that?
I really, Wuhan Shihuan. Not just Wuhan, China. Wuhan Shihuan, China. I like China so much. I mean, I'm crazy about the place. But the thing is, I want...
But what about what's happening with China and the Uyghurs? What's your take on that and your thoughts on that?
I'd rather not get distracted. First you asked about the Balkans, now you're asking about China, and then the Uyghurs, one thing and another. What's going to be next after that? Oh, what about the Bolivian movements with Evo Morales? Yes, let's get back to this. I can't believe you're distracting me. What the hell? Yeah, let's get back to European history. Yes, unfortunately...
You brought it up speaking Chinese, so it's kind of just followed on from there.
你想什么？你说什么？ 你想说什么? Yeah. 傻瓜.
Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, you should be sorry. In China, you would be sorry if I said that. 你想什么? 你说什么? 你要说什么? 说. Yes. Okay, so here is a picture. They're Europeans who've arrived in America. Now, what do we see here? Even the children. Yes, how are they dressed?
They're all wearing hijab.
So that shows you what Europe really was. And so now here is photographs of people coming from Europe, and the people looked diverse. Yes, that when they came, you could see many people look like Arabs, Turks, Indians, Pakistanis, and everything. White, Middle Eastern, and Western Asian. You could see this. Yes, but what are the women wearing?
They're all wearing a hijab.
So now here is more pictures. Yes, and this is a ship that's arriving, in New York, basically. And what are the people wearing? What can you see there? These are European
They're all
people.
they're all wearing the hijab.
Yes, so we can clearly see what Europe was. We can see it here, and people don't know these. So here they're coming from Cork in Ireland. Yes, and what are they all wearing?
The hijab.
Yes, and so here we have people who are coming, who've just arrived, coming from Europe. How are they all dressed? These European people.
They're all wearing the hijab.
Yes. Here is just a family, who came from, God knows, maybe from England, from Scotland, from Holland, from France. So what are they wearing? Even the children.
They're all wearing the hijab.
Yes. And so these have they got any Christian symbols, Christian necklaces, anything in any of these pictures?
No, I'm zooming in and I can't see anything.
Ah, yeah. Yes. Here is more pictures. I want you to look at the people here, even the men. Yes? Do they all look fully white, or are the people mixed?
No, they're mixed. They look, they could pass as Turkish, Middle Eastern.
So that was the reality of Europe. Yes? So that was the reality of what Europe was. So here is a ship. It's a ship that arrived in 1908, and when we look at the people on the ship, yes, what do we see? What are they all wearing?
They're all wearing the hijab.
Yeah. So so these are from Germany, Poland, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia. Here is another picture of just specifically they think it's Polish women, or they got on the boat. Or they said they were from Poland. And the thing is, what are they all wearing?
All of them are wearing the hijab.
Yes, so we can see what is the reality of what Europe was. So the actual history and everything, yes, they don't show us these things. They don't want us to know. So here is a picture taken on board the ship. What is the name of the ship?
The ship is the Kaiser William II.
Yes, what are the women wearing?
They're all wearing hijabs.
Yeah, I've zoomed into the pictures there. They just look like the average Muslim women that we see walking around Europe. And that's the bottom half of the deck. And on the top deck, here is a picture so that people can actually see that they're actually Europeans. There's men there beside the women. What are the women wearing?
They're all wearing the hijab.
Yeah, so this is Kaiser William II ship, Germans and people like that, and from that region, we can see this. Yes, so let's have a look. Here is another ship. They're all migrants, illegal immigrants. They went to somebody else's land. They threw the people off the land, off their homes, and they took over the entire land. Yeah, so here is arriving in Ellis Island. Yeah, because they didn't want to fight for Germany, England, or France, or Holland, or all these European countries. What are they all wearing?
They're all wearing the hijab. Yeah.
Yes. So we're looking at one ship after another. So now in the area around Berlin, that's known as East Germany or Prussia. Yes. here are local women. What are they wearing?
They're all wearing hijab.
Yes, so we can really see what the women looked like in, in Berlin, or what they call East Germany, or they called it Prussia at the time. We can see what they looked like also. Yes, so we can see these things. There's New Haven. So now there's New Haven. Let's have a look. They call these people the fishwives or whatever. I don't know what that means. Yes, but what are they all wearing?
They're all wearing a hijab.
Yeah, that day they probably wore beautiful clothes because the photographer went, let's just look at average English places. I think this photograph was taken in 1875. This is Lincolnshire, right in the middle of England. And what are the women wearing? What do they wear?
They're wearing the hijab.
Yes, so we can see these things, and we can see this throughout Europe. That was Europe. So it's like if anybody says it wasn't, it's just a lie. Here is people who are running away from Europe. They don't want to be in Europe. They wanted to live on Indian land. Today it's called America, United States, or Canada. They've given, European names like Boston and all these other places and things like that. Here is people leaving Europe. What are they wearing?
They're wearing the hijab.
Yes. Here is European people. Yes, they're leaving from everywhere. England, France, Germany, Norway, Sweden, Finland. They're running. What are they all wearing?
Again, they're all wearing the hijab.
Yes, all the Europeans wore hijab, and today their grandchildren, the behaviour, many of them, there's many good people. It's a minority who are doing the racist acts. I mean, what are the women wearing here? Yes, they're on the ship, illegal migrants, illegal immigrants. Yes, going to Indian territory, stealing their land. Yes, what are they all wearing?
Oh, they're all wearing the hijab. Yeah.
Yes, so we can see these things. And not only that, here is people. Yes, what many people don't know is that many Irish people went to America. And so I will go through this maybe some other time. But it's very important that people know that there was movements in America. Pro-German movements that had people who were Irish, or people in France who were children of orphans and other people who really hated, France, or really hated Holland, or because they got kidnapped and they were working in these industrial revolution mills and factories. So many people in America, supported the Nazis and other things. So in America, in America as well, what they did was, in the north, they brought many, what they call African Americans into Boston. Let's say Boston has a huge percentage of Irish people, and they're thinking, why would they bring all these people? Yes, there was a big movement of people in Boston who were refusing to fight for the Americans in World War II to help England. They wanted to see England destroyed. Yes. Now, if I'm Irish, then of course, knowing what the English did at the time, of course I would support that. If I'm English, then of course I'm going to be supporting England. Yes. So the thing is, if many people are wondering why, let's say in Boston. Now, I think I'll go through these things next time, the amount of politics with the immigration, and why John F. Kennedy used the army to escort the black people into schools, and why they gave many rights. There were many different movements. Many Jewish people wanted equal rights. That's one. The Jewish people had one agenda. The English Americans had another agenda, that there's that many Irish people outside Europe, outside the Irish Republic. About 70 million outside Europe. So the thing is, it was a big threat of what would happen. These people are refusing to serve in the army, many other things, and they're financing the opposition and things like this. They weren't Nazis, many of them, but they joined the Nazi parades and everything, and things like this. So here we see, migrants coming from the Caribbean and other places. What are they all wearing? They would be classified as black people today. And so now people are going to see it was early in the 20th century, because there was all these problems in the United States of people refusing to join the army, refusing to accept that they're English. So to become American basically meant to become English. You've got to learn the English language. You had to have English names. You had to join these new English religions, evangelical religions and everything, and you had to go. So the schools were run by the churches and all these other things. So the politics, people are soon going to realize what really happened and how the new version of Christianity spread. But what are these black people from the Caribbean? What are they all wearing again?
They're wearing the hijab.
Yeah, so now the thing is Christianity. The old Christianity was destroyed. Yes, it was destroyed by the Crusaders under a European leader called the Prophet Muhammad. The evidence shows he was European. Yes, and so the Vatican and their allies were destroyed. Professor Anatoly Fomenko shows this. And then Christianity, they remodeled it and gave it a rebirth. Now, the original Trinity in many documents we could see is the Father, the Mother, and the Son. But now it became the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. They modified it again. And that's why the evangelical churches and everything are new. You could see people getting off the boat. Now, when I said this before, some people turned around and criticized me, and they wrote pathetic, evil comments when I said half of the United States couldn't speak English properly by 1950. Can you see it now? These people are coming from foreign countries. They can't even speak English. Can you see it now, or do people think I'm making it up?
Yes, it's clear.
Clear what? That
Yes,
they could
it's
speak
clear.
English or they couldn't?
That they couldn't speak English. They were forced out of
in
their
school.
countries.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were forced out of their countries because they were kidnapped from the countryside. Soon I'm going to go through the pictures and the photographs. There was mass burning in the countryside that many people are not aware of it, but American companies, what we call American today, were actually English at the time. So today you'll call them American just because of a passport, but they're really English companies. What they were doing is they were encouraging and they were financing groups in Europe to actually burn people's lands so that they'll have to get off the lands, kidnap the children and everything. And the churches went saying, oh, we're the charity, we're like the Oxfam of the time. We've come in God's name. But anyway, Matrix Codes, this book shows, how Christianity is new and how they've used Masonic and Jesuit codes in a lot of the history and the falsified everything. Yeah, and my book, Orphan Trains, shows how the Church of God was selling all these children. Yes, it was a joke, it was a business. And then today people think it's a religion. Yes, but anyway, so many of these black people came, but the English people in power in America, you can call it the American government, but many people don't know what's really going on in America. If anybody thinks that there's really a genuine, democracy or something going on over there, yes, they could read my book, The Donald Trump Codes. When you see that, you will, if you just check through the administration, you'll know straight away it's a joke. Yes, that there is secret people in power. Yes, and who you would classify as English or somebody else, and their allies. And so the thing is, they brought the black migration to the north. Nothing wrong with it. I mean, so what if somebody's black or white? They could bring people who are blue, for all I care. But if they're people, they deserve to be respected. But what was wrong is that they stole the land from the, and the cities from the native people. And they didn't call them Indians for no reason. Many people have their imagination of Indians, but we'll go through photographs of the Indians later. Here is people who've arrived in, coming from Europe now. What are these people all wearing?
They're all wearing the hijab.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, I forgot to send you the enlarged picture. Are these European people, or are they Africans, or are they Indians? You can see the picture clearer now. Do they look like they're from Africa?
No, they don't look African. I'm not that stupid. They look like they're from Europe.
Are you sure you're not Stuart when you said they look like? They are from Europe.
No, they look, yeah. Well, I'm just saying they look like they're from Europe, yeah.
But anyway, here is more people. Here is a family. Here is a family from Europe. Yes, they've just arrived. What is the woman wearing?
She's wearing a hijab.
Yes. So if people want
Yeah.
to see, even the history of Hitler has been falsified, yes, of why the people were running, and then the eugenics movement. It was just because of the hijab that entire racism started throughout Europe. That soon I'll go to it and people will be shocked and think, what? The hijab caused all the nationalism and racism throughout Europe? It actually caused it. I don't think they can calm things down if the European Union ever collapses, or the current systems. Here are people who've left Europe to go live in America. What are they all wearing?
They're all wearing the hijab.
Yeah. Here is more people who've left Europe. Yes. What are they all wearing?
The hijab.
Yeah, so we're beginning to see, families, photograph families. Yeah, so now let's have a look. Here is another family. I'm not sure where they came from. Eastern Europe, maybe, or Central Europe, or East Germany, Poland, something like that. Yeah, what are they all wearing?
They're all wearing the hijab.
Yes, so as we can see, it's not very difficult to understand what is actually going on. Yes. Yeah. That family is Ukrainian. Sorry, the picture before it is from Eastern Europe or Germany or whatever. People can check these pictures themselves. Yes. So I'm going through different regions. It's not just England, Ireland, this, that. It's from the entire region and everything. That everybody's wearing a hijab. It's clear. Yes. So now.
We have photos. I've got photos of my grandmother has photos of her when she was young, and her mother, my great grandmother. They all covered their hair as well.
Anyway, I've sent you the new picture. Could you read it? Because many people don't realize that modern languages have thousands of more words. Yes, but a normal language, yes, you could read this.
While it's obvious that modern languages like English have way more words than ancient languages due to science and technology terms.
Well, basically, on an everyday basis, people speak less words. It's known that, just 100 years ago, yes, and so you could read this.
Languages had less words, and in most cases, grammar was less strict than it is now.
Yes.
So it was easier to learn language.
So basically, now people have invented things in grammar. You could see this in English. For example, in the current Arabic language, my new book has just been completed. My new book, Science of the Kaaba, goes through it and gives examples. For example, in the old Arabic, they've invented the grammar, invented the root words. They did the same in French, English, German, everything. And they invented dictionaries to give change the meanings of words. But basically, languages had less words. This is very important if one compares the Bible. Yes, the Bible has, they'll say, including the New Testament and the Old Testament, it's got about 1 million words. It's got 14 or 15,000 unique words. So how the hell could people have learnt it? Especially in the 19th century when people didn't speak that much. But the thing is, we're talking about 14,000 unique words. Now, the Quran, yes, is something else. It's not like the Bible. There's a big difference. It's got maybe 80,000 words compared to 930,000 words in the Bible. Bible's got about 1 million. The Quran doesn't even have 100,000. The Bible has about 14,500 unique words. The Quran's basically got 500 words for about 80% of its contents. Yeah, so it's very easy to learn the Quran, and so 500 words, that was what the original Arabic was. And there was, in an oral language, you don't really have that much grammar. Yeah, so by learning 500 words, 80% of the Quran. So now here is more photographs. Let's go to individual places in Europe, family photographs and everything. This is a family. Let's see, where are they from? This is a German family, a Prussian family. Yes, Germans. So now what we could see in this family picture, yes, these Germans 100 years ago, what are they wearing?
They're all wearing the hijab, the little girls, the mother.
Yes. So we can see it. So now here is the next picture. Yes. These are people in, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, and all this, countries in Europe. Yes. What are they wearing?
They're wearing the hijab on them.
Yes. So we can clearly see what Europe's history is. Yes, that we can see from there, like it's something that they're not showing us in schools. Now, if they're not showing us this and not telling us about it and showing other photographs and other things showing, oh, Europe was like this or like that, they're all wearing hats. They don't want you to know this history. So now here is more people. They're all Europeans, and here is the Italians. Yes, this is what people look like in Italy. What are the women wearing?
They're wearing the hijab.
Yeah, so we can see this. It's throughout Europe. So here is I think it's a family in Hungary, Slovakia, or that region. Yes, what are the women wearing?
The hijab.
Yeah, so we could see this in different families, throughout Europe. Here is Finland. I think it's a family. Yes, or something. What are the women wearing in this picture?
The hijab.
Yes, so let's go through, another German family. The women are stood in the middle. They're not as tall as the men, but can you see it? What are all the women wearing?
They're all wearing the hijab.
Yeah, we're beginning to see a pattern. It's not a pattern, it's clear. Yes, so many people turn around and say, what the hell's going on here? Can you see clearly the German women there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now I'm sending you Sweden. Yes, here is a Swedish family. Yes, what are the women wearing?
The hijab.
So we can see this. So now Europe at the time had a very high birth rate also. Yes, its population just doubled. You could read this. What happened to Europe?
During the 19th century, the European population more than doubled, growing from 180 to 390 million people.
And also, yes, it was actually more than that, because so many people went to live in Africa, South Africa, Namibia, Zambia, Angola, Zimbabwe, and many people went to Argentina, Chile, places like that, Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, Ecuador. So millions had left. Yes. So it's like Europe's population went up so much. And now what we're seeing in the media, what are they saying about these migrants coming to England, France, and Germany?
Completely bizarre.
They're saying it's completely crazy seeing all these small boats. Yes, but so the truth is, these millions of migrants who went on the boats to Indian territory, it's completely bizarre. They're illegal immigrants. Yes, illegal migrants. And so we're seeing this on European television, that the local people, yes, even though nobody's throwing them off the land, nobody's doing anything, what does it say there?
There's a lot of anger.
Oh, they're so angry. Yes, but the thing is, we're not talking about hundreds of millions of people coming. I mean, there's 500 million European population now living outside Europe. They went and they stole land, they killed the people and did many other things. There was mass rape and everything. So there's where is the anger? The people were running from Europe. I mean, even after the war, they were still going. They're not going to show you the people with the headscarves. I mean, they're illegal migrants. They're going on boats. Yes. So when we see, so the people later, yes. So the people later, you don't see them with hijab. But the thing is, yes, there's a lot of anger. It's completely crazy. It's bizarre. Yes. What are these illegal immigrants and migrants doing? I mean, they went with guns to Australia, to New Zealand, to South Africa, to Argentina, to Brazil, to Mexico, to the United States, to Alaska, to Canada. I mean, they're going on boats, millions of them. Yes, I mean, they were running away so much that can you see it? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. I mean, you could read this. People are putting posters up online, making videos. What does this video say?
Send them back from where they came. Be careful.
Warning? It says warning. Send them back from where they came. Be careful. Yeah, well, we're not. It's got to work both ways. Oh, they're telling us, yes, the migrants enter, England, France. You could read this.
Migrants enter UK with guns.
Well, let's have a look. Almost every European family in the United States, what were they carrying? And they won. They killed everybody. They won the West. They won all the land. What are they all carrying?
They're all carrying guns.
They entered Indian territory with guns. They killed them. They threw them off the land, and they took it. You see? They took it. I mean, I don't know what to say about this. You know what I mean? Yes? And so the thing is, there's a lot more going on and the history. So if I don't see these migrants coming with millions of guns, we're talking about millions of guns throughout those decades and years. They basically stole the whole country. And then they give you a false history of those black people in Germany. And so you could read this.
The Holocaust's forgotten black victims, the Rhineland. The term Rhineland bastard is of course vile. It both articulated the Nazis' biological construction of race and colonial conceptions of race.
Yeah, basically they killed them or got rid of them. Many of them ran. So many of these black people went to the Americas. So when we see black people who went there with the hijab, I showed one picture, there's many more. Yes, the thing is, many black people who were actually European, they were black Germans. And they left from Western France and Eastern France and West Germany. There was black people in Europe. Now they try to give you a fake history of saying where they came from or something, like soldiers or something, children of soldiers from World War One. But there's more to this history. Yes? The thing is, you could read this.
Black Germans in the politics of race, gender. Reminded of the Negro bastards of the Rhineland occupation.
Yeah, basically, it's not just there. In many other places, there were darker-skinned people and black people, and many people were mixed. We don't know who came from where. There was white people amongst the Indians. It's in my book, History is a Lie. Yes, and things like that. People were everywhere. The world was a different place. It was only when the hijab was removed that the eugenics movement started to go crazy and it went insane. Of course, they're just going to give you a fraudulent history and say it wasn't just over there. Those people who had black ancestry in Italy that they couldn't explain, or in Austria, or in Spain, or even in the Balkans, or even in Eastern Europe. But this is what they claim the history is. What do they say?
Blacks in Nazi Germany. The children of black soldiers and German women called bastards of the Rhineland.
Yeah, so what they tried to say, it was from that. That's what they're trying to say. But some of them were. Of course, many of them were. Some of them were. But there was also the case of there was black people in Europe, yes, who were there from before. Many centuries back, many people were brought as slaves. Many of them worked.
And so what about the Moors? The Moors and the black Moors.
I'm not going to give it a name because, the black people who were in Austria or Switzerland, we don't know how they came, where they came from. Many of them were workers or they came through the, the Spanish empires and other things. We don't know. The main thing that I'm trying to say is that something is wrong with European history and world history. People have run from one place to another. Unfortunately, people stole land, they did this, they did that. The current migrants and foreigners that we've had coming to Europe in the last 50 years, the vast majority came on legal visas. A large percentage of them, their grandfathers fought for England on Britain during the war, when many of the English and the Irish didn't want to fight. Yes, for England. They said, what is England to us? People can study it themselves, what happened during the war. Yeah, of course, England did wrong to the Irish. I mean, it's unforgivable. It's unforgivable. So I understand if other people can't forgive it for the rape and the torture and the famines and the murders, what happened in Ireland, it's unforgivable. But today the world has changed. The English people today are somebody else. The foreigners who've come today are somebody else. They haven't come with guns. Yes, it's just an exaggeration by the media. And the thing is, we've got the chance to make the world a better place. The world economy is moving faster than ever before. Unfortunately, the future is not stable. It's not guaranteed. And people think we're living in a paradise as if it's totally safe and secure. It's not. We have to keep working towards peace. We've got to tolerate each other, help each other, and help to build a better world. Now, if we don't do it, we're going to destroy our side of the world while we're on top, and we will regret it. You see? The Ireland, yes, how did the English walk into Ireland? Ireland was divided. That's another thing. If England becomes divided and people start having petty squabbles, the Russians can walk in. Yes, the Chinese could walk in, maybe one day. I know people are saying, no, that's unbelievable. Nobody ever thought that England would walk into Hong Kong or to South China. Nobody ever imagined that the English will walk into Bengal, one of the most richest places in the world, 150 years ago. But they did it. Yes, when the people divided with their petty squabbles, you know, like my tribe is, we're the originals, or we are having these land borders, this is ours, that's yours. Let everybody live together. Yes, you know what I mean, like in the Middle East, they're fighting over, I mean, they can make an agreement. I mean, the thing is, the past is the past. It's people can move on. Okay, do you have anything to say, and then we'll finish it off?
Well, you've given us a lot to think about, David, and I think from this we can get a clear understanding of our history, its truth, and its fabrications, and we can see that it's essential for us to recognise that we have a shared humanity that binds us all, and we need to work together for peace in all aspects of our lives.
The majority of the French people, German people, English people, American people, the majority are nice. It's a minority that are racist, but we saw what nationalism and racist people did in Europe, in the Balkans, and they caused many of the wars in the 19th century. Racism could take over again. This is why we've got to be careful, because it doesn't do any good. It just destroys everything, and things have to start all over again. People move around the world. Let's help make the world a better place. Yes, race is a beautiful thing, and the thing is, we could celebrate our races and everything, but in a positive way. Let's celebrate the beauty. Yes, let's celebrate the differences and celebrate the commonalities. Celebrate everything, the different cultures, the different ways. Same like I see Islamism and Quranism as a threat, and evangelism and Catholicism as a threat. I see that as a threat myself personally, whereby religion could be used to brainwash people. I mean, there's different ways to God. You can't just say that Catholicism is the only way. You can't just say that Islamism is the only way. You can't just say evangelism is the only way to God, or Quranism is the only way to God. There's different ways to God. Yes? I mean, many people are trying to say the Jewish people worship the devil. I've never seen this. I mean, in England, we've got devil worshippers. I mean, what about you, Claire? Are you a devil worshipper? Do you worship Satan?
No, I can honestly say I don't.
Maybe it's exciting. I don't know. Some people, there's many people who do it. Is there anything else you want to add, or shall we just close it off today? That we could see.
I think I'll just end it with if history teaches us anything, I think it's that we are strongest when we stand together and not divided. And let's embrace our shared humanity
and the shared history,
reject the narrative.
And the shared history that the hijab is European history, and it should not be hidden. They're showing us bogus pictures, and they've taught bogus things for their bogus agendas. Europe has something else. Europe has a hidden Islamic history. The hijab was not just accidental. It is not what many people would assume and think, hey, maybe that's from the church or this and that. Yes, there's Arabic coins that are found throughout Ireland, throughout England, throughout Germany, throughout Holland, throughout France, throughout Northern Europe. Arabic coins with Arabic writing. Yes, and they've told us some stupid history saying that the coins came from near Afghanistan or from Saudi Arabia or Iraq or somewhere, which doesn't make sense. And the same coins can't be found in those regions. Yes, they're desert regions, but Europe has an Islamic history, and the hijab is not what many people think it was. And many of the wars were caused in the nationalism. Yes, when the hijab was removed, it made it worse, 10 times worse, and it actually created the racism. It helped to create the nation-state borders and many other things, if people know. And my recent book, of course, which goes into sacred geometry and the origins of Islam itself, that evidence shows that, Europe was actually Muslim and Islam came from Europe, especially Northern Europe and Western Europe. And there's a lot of sacred geometry and the hidden science and everything. It's in my new book, The Science of the Kaaba. Anyway, let's leave it at that, and then we will continue some other time. Or do you have any more questions?
No, so thank you, David. Thanks for your time, as always, and thank you for reminding us of our shared humanity and how we need to work together to just get along regardless of race, religion or origin.
Okay, thank you too. I wish you have a great day ahead. Okay, goodbye.
You too, David. Bye.